There's a concept that I want to touch on here that, referred to as the perpetual cope. And I want to start by defining cope, giving you a couple of different definitions. If you take the definition right out of Webster's dictionary, cope means to deal with problems, troubles, etc. In your business, if you're coping with the day-to-day, it means you're kind of just handling the problems, you're handling the troubles, you're putting out the fires. And I think anybody that's in a management or an ownership position has a certain amount of this that hits you every day, like it or not. It's kind of hard to completely do away with it. But I want to share another definition because it gets a little bit more in detail, and this comes from this Hubbard management system. And the definition here is cope is the process of finding and correcting outpoints. Now let me define it. Outpoint is basically anything that isn't what it should be. It's the problems, the troubles, anything that's not optimum and what it should be. So it's the process of finding and correcting these outpoints or these problems or troubles without ever discovering a why. And I also define this one. A why is that basic outness, that the problem found, that if you correct it, it's actually going to get the stats to recover or fix the problem. So when we talk about putting out fires, one of the questions that I ask is, have you found yourself having to solve a problem because whatever the problem was, it wound up on your desk. So you've had to correct it, and maybe you had to find it before you corrected it, and you correct it, and then you go back about your day, and you know what, the next week, the next month, 3 months later, the same problem is right back on your desk again, and you've got to solve it all over again. That's a big part of coping. It's that constant, you find a fire, you put it out, but without really figuring out what's causing these fires and what do I need to do to correct it, not only to make this fire go out, but to ensure that we don't have this type of fire happen again so we can get back to business and doing the things that we really need to do and want to do. So this, the process of finding and correcting problems without ever getting to the bottom of it is what leads to and creates this idea of cope. And there's an interesting thing that kind of happens as you move down the line here. As you start thinking about how do you turn this into organization, well, you first have to understand that if you remain in cope, the demand for cope increases. The more you run around and put out fires and handle the problems of your employees and your staff, the more fires there will be. What's interesting is when somebody is determined and found to be a really good fireman or firewoman, they now will wind up getting more and more fires because the organization learns they're good at it. And I see this with a lot of business owners that they're very good at handling the problems and putting out the fires. So there's just more and more fires to put out, and this thing just kind of snowballs. And this is what really can be that key to the overworked or that overwhelmed executive or owner.